If you've ever stood at a doorway knowing that leaving would be easier than staying, but did neither, subscribe and stay. These are the stories where restraint is louder than action. The hallway is quiet in the way buildings get after midnight. Not silent, just hushed. Carpet soft underfoot. Lights dimmed automatically to something warmer, gentler. The kind of quiet that makes footsteps sound louder than they should and breathing feel noticeable. They stop outside her door. Not abruptly. Not planned. Just there. She reaches into her bag for her keys, fingers brushing metal once, twice, then stopping altogether. She doesn't look at him yet. She can feel him beside her, close enough that his warmth reaches her arm, close enough that if she shifted even slightly, she'd brush against him. Neither of them moves. "This is me," she says softly, unnecessary words filling the space because neither of them is ready to let the silence stretch too far. He nods. "Yeah." She finally looks up at him. The hallway light catches his face just enough to soften it, shadows easing the edges. He looks calm, but there's something held back there. Something deliberate in the way his shoulders are squared, in the way his hands stay loose at his sides instead of doing what they clearly want to do. They've been like this all evening. Careful. Aware. Dinner had been easy. Conversation natural. Laughter unforced. The kind of night that doesn't announce itself as significant until it's almost over. And now this. Her fingers tighten around her keys without lifting them. "Do you want to come in?" she asks. The question isn't casual. It lands between them, heavy with implication. He considers it, really considers it. She can see the restraint in his eyes, the way he weighs the moment not against desire, but against intention. "Do you want me to?" he asks gently. She exhales. That question, always that question with him, undoes her a little. "Yes," she admits. Then quieter. "But not like that." Understanding settles over his expression. "Okay," he says. "Then I won't." The honesty of it surprises her more than a refusal would have. She swallows. "Then good night," she says, even though the word feels premature. "Good night," he replies. Neither of them moves. The space between them hums, not charged like a spark but dense. Weighted, like something waiting to be acknowledged. She shifts her weight unconsciously. Her shoulder brushes his arm. It's light. Accidental. It still sends a quiet awareness through both of them. He doesn't step away. Instead, he angles his body just slightly toward hers. A subtle adjustment that feels intentional without being aggressive. "Hey," he says quietly. "Yes," she replies, breath already a little shallower. "You don't have to rush this," he says. "I know," she says. "I just don't want to pretend it's nothing." "I wouldn't ask you to," he replies. The hallway light flickers softly, casting brief shadows that make the moment feel suspended. Like the building itself is holding its breath. She finally turns fully toward him, keys lowering to her side. "I keep thinking," she says slowly, "that if we say goodnight and walk away, this will feel unfinished." He studies her face, searching for hesitation. He finds none. "Then don't walk away yet," he says. Her pulse quickens. "Okay," she agrees. They stand there, facing each other now, close enough to see the details that distance usually hides. The way his jaw tightens slightly when he's holding back. The way her lips part when she's thinking. She notices his hands again. Still at his sides, relaxed but ready. Not reaching. She appreciates that more than she expects to. "You're very controlled," she murmurs. He smiles faintly. "Only when it matters." "And does this matter?" she asks. "Yes," he answers immediately. Her breath stutters. She lifts her hand slowly, giving him plenty of time to stop her. When he doesn't, she lets her fingers rest lightly against his chest, just above his heart. The contact is brief. Electric. He inhales slowly, eyes darkening, but he doesn't move his hands. "That's new," she says softly. "Yes," he replies. "But it feels intentional." She nods, leaving her hand there for a moment longer than necessary, feeling the steady beat beneath her palm. "I don't want to rush past this," she says. "I won't," he promises. The hallway feels smaller now. Not confining, just intimate. Like the world beyond it has dimmed. She lowers her hand reluctantly. "So," she says, trying and failing to sound casual, "this is the part where we say goodnight and actually mean it." He chuckles softly. Is it? She smiles despite herself. Maybe not yet. She steps back half an inch, just enough to give herself room to breathe. Then she surprises both of them by leaning in, resting her forehead lightly against his shoulder. The contact is gentle, deliberate. He freezes for half a second, then relaxes, his body adjusting instinctively to support her. Neither of them speaks. His scent, clean, warm, familiar, wraps around her and she exhales slowly, tension draining from her shoulders. Tell me if this isn't okay, she murmurs. It's okay, he replies quietly. Tell me if it stops being okay. She nods against him. They stay like that for a moment longer than necessary. Then another. The urge to reach, to pull her closer is unmistakable. He resists it, not because he doesn't want to, but because the restraint feels like part of the connection. She lifts her head slowly, eyes meeting his again. You're very good at stopping just before things get complicated, she says. I'm better at knowing when they already are, he replies. Her lips curve into a soft smile. That's dangerous, she says. Yes, he agrees. But honest. She glances at her door, then back at him. If we go inside, she says carefully, this changes. And if we don't, he replies, it still does. She laughs quietly, shaking her head. You're right. They stand there, close enough now that her body heat is unmistakable, her presence something he's acutely aware of. She reaches for her keys again, this time deliberately. Walk me in, she says. Just to the door. He nods. Okay. She unlocks it slowly, every movement feeling deliberate, heightened. The door opens with a soft click. She steps just inside. He stays in the hallway. They face each other across the threshold. A literal line between public and private. Good night, she says again. Good night, he replies. Neither moves. She rests her hand against the doorframe, fingers curling slightly. He mirrors the gesture on the opposite side, hand braced against the wall. They're framed there, close, restrained, aware. If I don't close the door, she says softly, what happens? He meets her gaze steadily. Then we stand here a little longer, he says, and acknowledge what we're not doing. Her heart pounds. And if I do close it, she asks, then I'll still feel this, he replies. And I think you will too. She nods slowly. She doesn't close the door. Instead, she steps back just enough to give him space to come inside. Then stops herself. Not tonight, she says, firm but gentle. He understands immediately. Not tonight, he agrees. She smiles, warm, certain. That was hard, she admits. Yes, he says. Which means it mattered. She closes the door slowly this time, never breaking eye contact until the last possible second. The click echoes softly down the hallway. He stands there for a moment longer than necessary, breathing out slowly. On the other side, she leans against the door, heart racing, body still humming with the awareness of how close they came, and how intentionally they stopped. They didn't cross the line. They didn't pretend it wasn't there. They said goodnight in the hallway, and neither of them went inside. Sleep doesn't come easily. On her side of the door, she stands for a long moment after the click, palm pressed flat against the wood as if she might feel him there through it. Her apartment is quiet, too quiet now that the hallway has been cut away. The air still carries his warmth, or maybe she's imagining it. Either way, she doesn't move until her breathing slows. Across the hall, he walks away with measured steps, not because he's uncertain, but because he's steadying himself. The elevator ride down feels longer than it did earlier. Every floor a reminder of what they chose not to do. By the time he reaches his car, the city feels louder, sharper, as if it's trying to pull him back into motion. They don't text that night. Not because they don't want to, because they want to keep the shape of the moment intact. Because restraint has weight, and neither of them wants to flatten it with easy words. Morning arrives differently. For her, it's a softness. She wakes without the usual urgency, sunlight finding its way through the curtains. The first thought that crosses her mind isn't work or schedule. It's the memory of standing in the doorway, the pause that felt louder than any decision. She smiles to herself, small and certain. For him, it's clarity. Coffee tastes stronger. The day feels organized around something unspoken but understood. He catches himself replaying the tilt of her head against his shoulder, the way she tested space without crossing it. It doesn't make him restless. It makes him patient. They make it until late afternoon. Then her phone buzzes. Did you sleep? The simplicity of it makes her exhale. She doesn't overthink the reply. Eventually, you? Yeah, he writes back. Better than I expected. She smiles, setting the phone down for a moment before answering. About last night. 3 dots appear. Disappear. Reappear. I know, he replies. We don't have to rush the words. Her shoulders relax. Good, she types. Because I don't want to rush the feeling. There's a pause, longer this time. She imagines him reading it twice the way he does when something matters. Me neither, he sends. Can I see you tonight? She doesn't hesitate. Yes. They choose a place that feels neutral enough to keep the edge soft. A quiet bar with low lighting and booths that don't demand performance. When he arrives, she's already there. Fingers wrapped around a glass she hasn't really been drinking. They stand when they see each other. No ruse. No reach. Just presence. Hey, she says. Hey, he replies. They sit across from each other, at first conversation easy, familiar. But the space between them feels different now, charged with memory. Every glance carries the weight of last night's pause. At some point he shifts closer, sliding into the booth beside her instead of across. He does it without comment, leaving her room to object. She doesn't. Their shoulders touch. Light. Intentional. You okay? He asks quietly. Yes, she says. You? Yes. They talk more softly now, voices dropping as if the room has leaned in. She tells him about her morning. He listens the way he always does, steady, attentive, present. When the bar grows louder, she leans in to hear him better, her hand resting briefly on his forearm. The contact is small but unmistakable. He stills, then relaxes into it. I thought about the hallway, she admits after a moment. Me too, he says. What part? She asks. The pause, he answers. Right before anything could happen. She nods. That was my favorite part. His mouth curves into a faint smile. Mine too. They sit there for a while longer, the city moving around them. When they leave, it's later than planned. Outside, the night is cool, the streetlights softening everything they touch. They stop near the curb, neither quite ready to go. This is where it gets harder, she says lightly. Yes, he agrees. She steps closer this time, closing the space deliberately. Not rushed. Not tentative. Her hand slides into his jacket pocket, fingers curling around the fabric. I don't want to pretend we're still in the hallway, she says. I don't want to pretend either, he replies. He lifts his hand slowly, giving her time, then rests it at her waist, firm, grounding. She leans into him, their bodies aligning with an ease that feels earned. Their kiss, when it happens, is unhurried. A meeting, not a collision. Soft at first, then deeper as they settle into it. He keeps one hand steady at her waist. She keeps both hands anchored to him, present and sure. When they part, she rests her forehead against his. That felt like the right next step, she murmurs. Yes, he says. Not the last one. They walk her home together, fingers brushing occasionally. Nothing hidden now. At her door, the hallway feels different. Less charged, more certain. She unlocks it and turns to him. Come in, she says. He searches her face. Tonight. Yes, she answers. Tonight. Inside, they move with the same intention they've carried all along. No rush, no pretending. They talk on the couch, shoes kicked off, knees touching, then aligned. He pulls her close and she lets herself be pulled, the choice clear and mutual. Later, as they sit together in the quiet, she realizes something important. The heat isn't louder than the trust. It's built on it.